Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar session, A New Solution for Managing OneStream Reports. My name is Michelle Morrill. I'm the Director of Marketing for MindStream Analytics. And before I introduce our presenter today, I just want to point out that we are recording this session. If you would like a copy of the webinar recording, or even if you want the presentation slides, please reach out to me afterwards. I'd be happy to get those to you. Also, if you have a question during the webinar presentation, even afterwards, if something comes up, please email us. You could just info@mindstreamanalytics.com, or during the webinar, you can just look in the control box. You'll see an area to type in your question. And if we have time afterwards, we'll be happy to answer those for you. So our presenter today is MindStream's Principal Consultant, Selvin Hadakaran. I thank everybody for joining us today, and now I'm going to turn the controls over to Selvin.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. So as Michelle was saying, this is a new solution that was developed by MindStream Analytics for XF Docs. So we're going to today see what XF Docs are and see the solution that was developed by MindStream for doing batch bursting. So that's today's agenda. And an introduction to MindStream Analytics. I'm not going to read out everything that is in there. So MindStream is one of the handful OneStream Platinum partners. We do have a global managed services team, seasoned planning and consolidation consultants. A little bit about myself. I am an ex-OneStream employee. I played too many roles at OneStream. I was with the services team, then I moved into the data integration team, and I had a short stint at the market-based solution team. I'm an ACE Director alumni. What that means is it's from the Oracle side of things. There is the people who are evangelists, who are considered as technical gurus. They are put into a tier of Oracle ACE program, and Oracle ACE directors are the topmost in that tier. Currently, I'm working at MindStream Analytics as a principal consultant. And let's dive into XF Docs and what the solution is. So when I heard about XF Docs for the first time, the first thing that came to my mind was X-Files. Not going to bore you with the X-Files theme music again, but then later I found out that it's not X-Files. It is something similar. It does something really amazing. It is extensible docs. And with OneStream, you keep hearing that extensible term. There is extensible dimensionality. There is extensible applications. There is extensible documents. And that's what extensible XF Docs are. And how can you make it extensible? So a OneStream XF Doc is something which is mostly it is a third-party document. So it could be a Word document, it could be a PowerPoint, it could be Excel, it could be even a text file. How it becomes an XF Doc is when you consume the OneStream content, like parameters, substitution variables, if you want to pull data values into it. And even better, you can even call business rules into the XF Docs. And if you think about it, OneStream has a type of business rule which returns a string. So in a document, what you're presenting to your user is either a string or a number. So by using a rule, you can even return more complex strings or numbers to the document. The one thing that you have to keep in mind is the XF Doc can only be launched from the OneStream XF platform. If I look at an analogy that some of you might recognize, it's OneStream's narrative reporting. So that's how it is done. So now we can look at how they are created, where they come from, and all the wonderful things about XF Docs. So as I said earlier, it is a third-party application that it starts out with third-party. There are two exceptions. One is the Excel document and the Word document. OneStream in the desktop, OneStream desktop app, you have two options to create a Word document or an Excel document within OneStream itself. So if you are going that route, then those are the two exceptions where it doesn't start out with a third-party application, which you can create within the XF framework. Now, once you decide what type of a document that you want, I might be looking at a PPT. So I decided that, okay, I want to create a presentation, which I want to send it out to the users. So that's done. Now I have to decide what is the OneStream content that I'm going to consume. It could be parameters. It could be like all the things that we saw earlier. It could be data values. It could be substitution variables. It could be a number of things. So decide what you want from OneStream. Now all you have to do is write your narration, how your PPT is going to be, just like a regular presentation. You just create that and plug in the OneStream components into it, the XF items. Once you're done, once you are okay with the presentation that you created, just save it. And the trick is to save the document with a keyword. And the keyword is nothing but, no surprises there, XF Doc. And that is case insensitive. So it could be X in uppercase, D in uppercase, anywhere you want. However, it should be XF Doc. So it's going to be the doc name, period, XF Doc, dot, the extension. So if you're dealing with the presentation, it's going to be PPTX because it is new Microsoft Office format. If it is Excel, it's going to be XLX, and so on and so forth. Once you're done with that, you can upload that document into OneStream's file system. Once that is in there, that's it. You created an XF Doc. Now let's dive a little bit deep into how you're going to get the data, how you will use the business rules or other substitution variables or parameters into a document. So getting your data, if you are familiar with the OneStream Excel documents, you might have used the GetSel formulas. It remains the same for an XF Doc too. You can use XF GetSel to get the data into an Excel file. Now there is another function which is XF GetSel5. That's nothing but if you are not using more than 5 user-defined dimensions, you can just say XF GetSel5 and then ignore rest of the user-defined dimensions. Now, if you are going to embed charts in your Excel document, you can use a function called XF GetSel Volatile. What that does is when OneStream prepares the data, what it does is the data will be refreshed, and then by default, the chart will also get refreshed if you are using XF GetSel Volatile. That's the only difference being the GetSel and the Volatile one. It just refreshes the chart on the fly. On Word and PowerPoint, the way to get the data is by using another function, which is XF Cell. It allows you to pull a single cell value from OneStream, and then it also allows you to do formatting. Like you can say the numeric format that you want to use, whether if you want to use scaling for the number that you are showing in your Word and PowerPoint, you can do that. That's the difference between GetSel and XF Cell. Now, there will be cases where you want to show some other documents rather than data. Like we talked about parameters, we talked about the substitution variables, we talked about data. What about rest of the objects? If I want to introduce a cube view into my document, you can do that. The trick is to add them as an images. We will see that in a demonstration, how that is done. Now, these objects, which are cube views, charts, you can even add an Excel range into your document. You can add a pre-created report. You can add a PDF file. These are added as images. And we are going to look at how we're going to create a PPT with the user activity report. So I am going to quickly go and create a presentation. So I'm going to say, okay, this I'm going to create this as user activity report. And as I was saying, the key here is to add those components as images. So to add them as an image, you should insert an image in there. So I'm going to go ahead and then add an image in there. Let's, I'm going to add that image there. Now, once that image is in place, what you have to do is, in the newer version of Microsoft Office, the image has something called alternate text. So you will add an alternate text for the image, and that's how OneStream processes the component that you are going to add for the image. Now, to get what you want to be pulled in, I know this one is going to be a user activity report. So I can go into OneStream. So I'm going to just log off and log back in to OneStream. So I just connect to OneStream and then just say log in, choose the application that you want. And I'm going to go quickly into dashboards where there is something called as an object lookup. You go into the object lookup, there are different object types in there. All you have to look at is extensible document settings. What we are going to look at is I know that I'm going to use a report. So if you open that, you will see what formatting options are available for the report. So this one, I know which one I'm going to pick up. So I'm going to select some formatting options. So you can just select that and then say copy to clipboard. I'm going to come back into this one over here. And I know user task activity is a report that I'm going to pull. So the format for that is XF and squiggly brackets application, because that's the location for the report. So it can be an application report or it can be a system report. So I'm going to say that as a report and the name of the report. And then I'm going to paste in the formatting options. So since this is, I want all the pages to come in, so I can just remove that. I can say, okay, I want all the pages. And this is all different formatting. You can crop the image that is going to come in. You can say what your zoom is going to be, whether you want to maintain the aspect ratio, and all those formatting options. Once you are satisfied with all the formatting options, you can copy the entire thing and then come back to the presentation and paste that into alternate text. So the first line is going to be the component that we are pulling. The second line onwards, that's going to be the formatting options. Now, I'm going to save this report as user activity. Keep in mind the format that we're going to use. So it's going to be xfdoc.pptx because it's a presentation. So I'm going to just save that. And now all you have to do is come back into OneStream and use the file explorer and upload that document over here. So that's a folder that I created inside documents, application database, documents, public, and I have created an XF doc and a documents folder in there. I'm going to upload the file. I'm going to go back right into where I created the user activity XF doc. So that's created now. All I have to do is click on that icon there, which is nothing but process a parameter and load the extensible document file. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to ask me to save the file. So it's going to be useractivity.pptx. It will ask me for the parameters that I want to run. So I'm going to say, I just want to audit for 7 days for admin. Say yes, and the document is now downloaded. So we are going to go back into the presentation. Now I have the file created there. it's a very small image. What happened to it? It is because it just kept the size of the image that's in there. So that's one thing that you'd keep in mind. If you are adding those as images, the image should be big enough to fill your report that you're going to pull down. So I'm just going to expand this guy a little bit more so that we can see the image in a better clarity. So I'm just going to upload the doc again, and I'm going to just say upload it, and I'm loading that. And now let's see what happens. So I'm just going to overwrite the existing one. And again, the same thing. I'm going to say 7 days, admin, and this should be giving us a better feel. So it keeps what size of image is there in your presentation. So that's why when we did it for the first time, it was a small report, but you just need to expand it so that it has it keeps the width of the image that's there in the file. So that's how an XF doc, a presentation, a PPT with a report is generated. Now, let's have a quick look at an XF book. Now, XF book is something similar from like if you have worked on Hyperion financial reporting books. The concept is similar, but it gives you more flexibility and more options to do or combine reports into a single place. So what it does is you can add multiple objects into a book. The objects being, you can add a URL, you can add an application and a dashboard file, you can add it doesn't need to be a dashboard file. A dashboard file will be something that we saw earlier, like a report or even a chart. It could be that. Now, you can even export QView. QView is nothing but like similar to a web form where you can see the data from a OneStream application. So you can export that as an Excel report. Then you can also add reports into it. Like you can just create QView as a PDF print, and you can even add charts and reports as we saw earlier. So this is similar to what we saw on Hyperion Financial Report, because if you look at Hyperion Financial Reports, you can add HFR reports, you can add a Word document, you can add PDF in there. Now, what makes the OneStream books different is you can now add looping conditions in there, which you can say loop through a comma-separated list, or you can say a loop through a member list. And what you can then do is use an option called change parameters. So if your report has parameters, you could say change the parameter for that particular file or the report that you're going to use, and just use what is coming out of the loop. So in this example that you're looking at, you have two loops and an if condition. The if condition says, if this is a particular entity, do this. So if you look at that, if the earlier loop is printing out a file, and then inside that loop, if you meet a condition, it says, don't use the earlier file, use a different report, and then produce something entirely different altogether. So that's a much powerful feature which you can use with the reports. So with the books, we're just going to quickly see a demo on the reports. So I'm not going to use, not going to build something. So I have already pre-created it. So to access the books, all you have to do is go into application and open up books in the presentation layer, and just open up a book. You can even create a new book. So from here, so you can say new book, what you want to add, whether you want to add a loop, whether you want to add an if condition, you can do that. As I was saying, on the loop, you have different options. You can say it's going to be a comma separated list. It can be a dashboard parameter. It can be a member filter. So we're going to look at something which is pre-built. So I am going to look at this guy. This is the one that we were looking at in the presentation. It has a loop, and it says, oh, this is not the one, sorry. Gonna open up. And this is, oh. Yeah, 2 loops. So the first loop, it says use the member filter and then run everything from clubs, which is a dimension, and then the dimension is entity and the loop variable. Since that's the first loop, you will have 4 loops that you can use. So this is the first loop. You're going to say the loop variables are loop 1, and you can then say change the parameters. This parameter, which is get cell entity, is actually coming from this file. So it has that parameter in there. So you're saying within that loop, change that parameter value into the loop 1 variable. And then now you're saying get that document from the application database and then use that file to create this. Then you add an if condition which says, okay, if the loop variable contains Houston, what you want to do is, in this, it is performing another loop and then saying, okay, now loop through my user-defined dimension and loop through all the products. And now I want the product to be changed as my loop 2 variable and then generate a chart for that that particular loop, and it's going to be for Houston. So if you look at the preview of that, it's going to say what is the region. I'm going to just say region. I think it is Houston. That's the region. And I'm going to just do that, and that will generate the PDF book, and running through all the different parameters and options and then generating the book. So it's going to come back with the document. So this is Houston. So as you can see, Houston produced a different file, and then it created the chart and all those things came in. So that's how you create a book and view them. You can do a preview and view how your book is. Now you can also do something where if you want to export that file, now you just saw that. And if you want to now do it as an export as a file, there is an option in data management in OneStream where you can export a file using XF Doc. So the way you do is you create a data management group and add a step, and the step is going to be export file step. And you just fill in the name, what is going to be your file source, and this is a key there which says process extensible document. You can just say that is true. And in this case, what I did was I just created a presentation and used that to generate a file. So if we quickly look at how that presentation file looks like, so it is just going to say the entity, the monthly operation view, it says get the cell values and get an image, the cube view, and entity report, the revenue report. So if I go back to my data management, I created the step there. It says put that file down there, I can execute it, and it will ask me for the parameter. I'm just going to run it for Houston, and that will be executed. Now you can go to the file system, and you will be navigating into file share, applications, and all the data management jobs goes into the data management folder. Export your username and go to files, and the date, because the file format, we use that as file and date for the file name. So that's in there. It is created. So at the same time, I can download that file, and so I have it already saved there. I'm going to overwrite it. And if I open that now, that presentation, if I open it, I ran it for Houston. It bring me all the Houston data. It's all 0. So it gets the product sales. It's got the the employee data, it got the financial data, and it said Houston. So that's the one way you can export the report using data management job. Now, we were talking about how MindStream happened to create a solution for this. Now, why MXDB, which is nothing but MindStream XF Doc batch bursting? You saw all the capabilities, how an XF Doc can be used. Now, if I create a file, how am I going to deliver it? You can use a data management job, and that's going to export the file. But I want something where I wanted to send it to the user with some conditions. I have to say, okay, Houston or Houston Heights, I want the balance sheet report that I'm generating goes to Houston Heights manager only. I don't want anyone else to receive that report. So that's why it is termed as bursting, and then you can do it in batches. That's why it is batch bursting. The solution, what it helps to do is it will create individual reports based on some criteria that you're supplying. In this case, it's going to be a bursting file. You can supply a bursting file. What the solution does is it goes into that file, reads all the bursting elements that you supplied, and create individual reports. And you have multiple options where you can email it. You can store it into a file system. You can even store that into the XF file system. And there's different flavors of it. One, you can send a notification to the people saying the file is out there. When you mail the reports, there are two options. One, you can mail that as one report. So what happens is if I receive one email, then I will see the other person also receiving that email. So you will see his email address in there. Individual, when you run it as an individual, like you will not see any other person who's going to receive that report. That's the only difference between one email and individual email. Those are the different delivery types that has been provided. How you will create is there is a step-by-step process. It goes to 6 steps. The first step being you creating a batch. You create the batch, you tell it what delivery type you want, and you can add an email subject and an email body for each batches that you're creating. If you don't have any, it is going to use the default subject and the body for sending out emails. The second step is to add more details to the batch that you created, which is nothing but you need to now select which XF doc you want to use for the bursting. So in this case, I'm using an Excel file, and depending on the delivery type, the rest of the parameters will change. You might not get an XF file location if you are selecting it to copy it to XF just a file system, or if you're emailing, you will not get that option. Since I selected that as copy to XF file, it is now going to ask me like what XF file location you want to use. So there are 3 different XF file locations. One is going to be file share, the other one is going to be application database, and the other is going to be system database. So there are different options for the file location. Then you will specify what is a folder name. And there you can even use a business rule, and which returns a string. So in this case, I'm just saying use this business rule, get the application name, and then put it into that particular folder. You can say who can access that particular XF doc. So when someone else logs in, they won't, like if you say that this is only accessible to a particular group, if they are not part of that group, they will not see that XF doc. And then an output file name where you can say this is what the file name is going to be when it goes out to the user. The third option, or the third step rather, is finding the parameters of the document, because that's what you will be using to burst. So you can click on the binocular once you have the XF doc selected. You can just click on that and it will automatically find all the parameters that are used in the report. Now, some of the parameters you don't want it to burst. You just want the parameter to be replaced with a particular value. So you can type in those values in there and have a default value there. If there is no default value for the parameter you already set, it will come back as your value. So you can fill in your value in that particular table down below, and it will show list all the parameters. The fourth step is now to select what all parameters you want to burst. So by default, the solution allows you to burst up to 5 different parameters. You might have 10 parameters in your workbook. However, you won't be bursting for all different, like 10 parameters. So you might have 5 of them as literal. You will just say, okay, my period is going to be, or my year is going to be 2019. So you don't want it to be burst on that. So it gives you option to burst up to 5 parameters. So you can select that and then save it. What will happen is then it will ask you to map your parameters to your parameter 1. You will have to map it to a parameter that is you're going to burst. Parameter 2, map it to the other one that you're going to burst. So you just map the parameters, and once the mapping is done, you can upload a bursting file. And that's an example or a sample bursting file. Once you set up everything, you can download a bursting template, which will tell you like what exactly the parameters are. So in this case, I have 2 parameters. So it's going to be parameter 1 and parameter 2. And so you have to keep in mind which one is mapped to which one. It will not give you that because it needs that format as a parameter 1 and parameter 2. So in that case, I'm saying, okay, my entity is going to be Houston Heights, and my UD1 is going to be purchase. And the second one, I'm going to send it to a different user, with the difference being my UD is IT. So I can download that and then make changes and upload it back. So when I upload it, you will see another table which will now show you the real parameter value. So in this, when you upload it, you see that as parameter 1. However, in the table, you will see that as the real value. So it's get cell entity and get cell UD1. You can add user IDs, or you can burst it to a particular group. What happens is when you specify a group name, it goes and looks at all the users that are there in that group and then use their email address to send it out. So you can even do that, like mention a group name and then do it. So let's quickly look at how this is all done. So I'm going to go into OneStream, and I don't have the solution in OneStream yet. So to get the solution, all you have to do is go and upload it. So I am going to upload the solution. So that's the zip file, upload the file, and that goes in. And once it is in, you can go to one place and you will see a new dashboard group here called MindStream XF Batch Bursting. You click on that, it will ask you to set up the solution. So all you do is set up the tables, it will create the tables for you, and all you have to do is launch the solution. That's not the screen that you will see. This is the screen that you will see first because I was already on there. That's why it went to settings. We are going to settings, so this is what it is. You will have to set up something upfront for the bursting to work. First one is you will have to set up your email connection and then use what email connection that you're going to use up here. So it will show you all the email connections that you've set up. So I just have only one, so I did that. The default email title, that's going to be OneStream reporting batch, and I can add a message in there, which is that. Debug mode is used for admins. So if you don't want to really send it out, you just want to see how it works, you can just set it to active. And so I don't know how to spell batch. Batches, you can say who gets access to the batches. And if you are using an Excel file system, and if the folder is not there, whether you want to create it, you can do that. So you just mention all those things, save the settings, and that's it. Now you have an uninstall option. If you want to uninstall the whole thing, you can do that. There's a help file, and homepage shows all the batches. We don't have any batch, so let's create a batch. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to create a batch. So I'm just going to say this is going to be my, oh, okay, you know what, MXDB test. And I'm going to keep the mailing option as mail, one email. I'm going to make that as public, and I'm leaving the subject as it is, because I will use the default subject if I don't give it any. And now it's the time to add an XF doc. So all the documents will show up here if you if you have an XF doc, so it will show that there. So I'm going to use the balance sheet XF doc, and you can even toggle the size of this. So if you don't have the information that you entered as saved, you will lose that. So I will have to do it again. So I'm going to use the summary balance sheet. And I'm going to, I don't have a shared fold path because that is an emailing option. And output file name, I can say this is balance sheet. So that's the file name that I'm going to use. I can save that information and then toggle the size again, come back over here. Now select the XF doc parameter. It will tell you what is selected. And all I have to do is find the parameters. So it's going to now do its magic and then bring back all the parameters that are present in the selected XF doc. So it says, okay, 2 parameters are added, and I got 2 parameters. So in this, I want to burst it for both those parameters. So I don't have a literal parameter to keep. So I'm going to say, okay, I got all the parameters. I'm going to burst this for 2 parameters. You can select any. So I'm going to say, okay, 2 parameters. Save that, then it will give you the parameters. So since you selected 2, it will now ask you to map it. So my first parameter, I'm going to map it as entity. My second parameter, I'm going to map it to UD. So I just did that. And one thing with OneStream is you will still see that this is a parameter 1 and parameter 2. All you have to do is just refresh so that you see the updated parameters. You can download it, and as I was saying, when you download it, what happens is it creates that template for you. Since you have it as 2, it will give you that. So I created my template already. So I'm going to go back in here and upload the version file. So I am going to go back into my presentation. This is the template that I created. When I upload it, it will know that the balance sheet is there. So I'm going to just toggle this and then show you that. So my entity is Houston Heights. I don't have an output file name. If you want to overwrite what file name is coming, you can do that here. So by default, what happens is the file name that you entered here, so which is nothing but we entered it as balance sheet. So what solution does is it says balance sheet space hyphen the parameter that you use. So in this case, it is going to be, if you don't give an output file name here as an override, it's going to be Houston Heights space hyphen space it.xlx. That's how it is going to be. So I'm going to send this to my Gmail account, and this is going to be sent to my MindStream Analytics one. So I am going to do one more thing. You can edit it here too. It doesn't need to come back from the file. So I'm just going to add one more email so that we can see the difference between mail one and the individual emails. So I'm going to say that is also going into my other Gmail account. So I'm going to save that. So that's there. All you have to do now is burst it. So I have selected that guy, and I'm saying send that email. So what it does is it goes into the task activity. You just have to monitor that, and it says it is running and completed. So hopefully I should receive an email. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So give me an email, and as I was saying, the output is going to be balance sheet Houston Heights purchase.xlx. Now I should also receive an email in my Gmail with the document. As you can see, since I said as mail as 1, I will now see the other user also who is receiving that. And if you look at the file, it replaced all the values with Houston Heights and the purchase department. And so I got the value there. My other email, which is the other Gmail one, that should have values from IT department. So that is Houston IT, and it should have the email from IT. Now, if I do this as, instead of doing this as mail one email, I can say send this as individual emails. What now will happen is the other guy who is receiving the email, so it says it is still running, completed. So if when this comes back, okay, there we go. So in this one, I will not see the other user. So earlier I had that. However, in this case, you will not know who received that email together. Now, the next option is you can do that as file share. So if you have a file, which should be the file on the OneStream server, not on your local machine. So you can use the file share and then send it there. So I'm going to use an XF file system copy. So once I save it, this will change now. It will be XF file location, and I need to now put the folder name in there, and I will have to then say what that is. So I'm going to say this is applications, and my application name is, let me look, I guess this is, oh, well, actually, I can do that here too. I can do application database. Let's do application database. It's documents, public, and I'm going to do something else. So it is going to be documents, public, and I'm going to add a new folder in there. So I don't have, as you can see, I don't have a bursting folder in documents public. So I just added bursting in there. And I'm going to say this for everyone, the same thing. And in this case, it's not going to use it's actually going to notify me. So if you go into the home page, you will see that the email it is going to. If it is not an email, you will not see the email option. So let me quickly do that too. So when you, let's say that if this is no email, what happens in the home page is you will not see an email section. Oh, well, maybe. You won't be seeing an email. So in this case, it is going to send a notification email, and I can do the bursting from the home page too, and I can even do that from there or here, and that's successful now. And I should get a notification saying, okay, that's done, and it will tell you like where the document is going to be. That's the only thing that a notification email does. And in the notification email, it's going to put every user that is going to receive it. So if you now go into the File Explorer, there should be a new folder that is created, and the 2 files that we bursted is going to be in there. You can download it from there. I'm going to put it in there, and just going to look at that. So since this is Excel, what it does is it puts the XF get cell in there. So it will now ask you to refresh. However, it is having IT in there, and all you have to do is now log in. So log in, you need to do a refresh. The values, whatever was there, will come back in here. Now for the other one, that's going to be, how did I close it? So that was IT, and this one was purchasing. So purchasing will have its own details. So that's going to be changed to purchase, and there. got the right data. So that's how the new solution for batch bursting works. We have few minutes for questions. If you have questions, you can ask away, or if you want to email it to us, you can email that to the email address there, which is info@mindstreamanalytics.com. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I really appreciate that great demonstration, Selvin. I think you knocked the audience. Either you rendered them speechless or they're just very shy. We do have a few minutes. If anybody has questions, I'm just going to take a look. Oh, one chat did come in, Selvin, if you're still with us. How is the solution different from OneStream parcel service?
So that's a good question. Parcel service is a delivery option from OneStream. However, what parcel service does is it does not have an option where you can say, like I was saying earlier, like, and if you go back to XF Doc, parcel service does not have an option to say, okay, this particular member's report goes to this user. And the other difference being when parcel service does the bursting of, let's say, an Excel file, you are going to get an Excel doc and a PowerPoint. It cannot do a distribution. This can now cascade. You can create a PowerPoint and then say, run this for 10 different entities. It's going to create 10 different files. You can do like a book and then add a PowerPoint in there. However, in the book's case, you will not get a PowerPoint back. You are going to get a PDF back. And the cascading option is not there. You cannot say, create 10 different presentations for these different entities and send it to 10 different users. That option is not there. That's the difference between MXDB and OPS, which is OneStream parcel service, and the solution.
Okay, looks like we don't have any more questions. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us. We hope to see you again on future webinars. Reach out to us if you think of something afterwards and you want to ask, marketing@mindstreamanalytics.com or info@mindstreamanalytics.com. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.